Today's video, I'd like to discuss tires. What tires we have ran in the past and what tires we have had, potential issues with, and also what tires we have not. This video is going to be geared around a brand that our group has personally tested. It's going to revolve around a brand that we currently run, and I'm going to try to be as honest as I possibly can. I've always been an ATV guy, and only last year, I think it was around, we rode Hatfield in April of 2025, I bought my first side-by-side, and which is my ZForce 950 Sport, which is a Gen 2. And I've always been privy to ATVs. I've always ran, obviously different brand tires on those. So having a side-by-side is a little bit different than an ATV, but the premise is still there around tires, right? And when people get side-by-sides, they want to jump up to these massive tire sizes, and they want to accessorize their side-by-side. I'm slowly doing that. I didn't think that I would, but I slowly am, and I enjoy both machines. I enjoy both units, so I'll always be an ATV guy. But so anyway, back to tires. When I had my first CForce 600, I went through quite a few different tires, manufacturers. I think I bought a set of tires used from a guy on Facebook Marketplace, and they were actually, they were mounted to rims, so I really wanted the rims, and the tires came with them. I don't remember the brand, but they performed okay. Over time, I ended up selling those wheels and tires because they stuck out way too far, and mud was just flying everywhere on all over the ATV, all over me. So I had to go back to something a little bit inset, closer to the inside the fenders. So at one point, I did try the Sun F tires. The only thing I didn't like about the Sun F tires, and they make a great tire, is I don't like that bright orange logo on the sidewall. I know that sounds crazy, and I'm not knocking this. If anybody's ever seen like those sidewall slugs, kind of reminds me of that. It's like, you're rolling down the trail and all you see is this orange thing. I didn't like it, but they make a decent tire. We really never ever had any problems with Sun F tires, but we never had them on long enough to actually beat them into the ground to see how their longevity was. At one point, Tom, who used to ride the Grizzly 660 in our group, he now rides a Gen 3 CForce 800 Touring. Almost at the exact same time, him and I went on Amazon and we bought a set of wheels and tires for his ATV and for my ATV. And the wheels were a little bit different. We got them from the same manufacturer or the same seller, but we ended up going with Maxxis Zillas. So the Maxxis Zillas, and if anybody knows the Maxxis Zillas or the Maxxis brand, the Zillas are pretty much a mud tire. And we come to find from our experience that they are great in the mud. They really are. They're actually great on rocks because the lugs are so high. So if you get a lug up on side of a, edge of a rock, or you're climbing, it's going to pull you up. It's going to hook in and grip. But the negative part of those tires, the negative side of those tires, is they're not very good at any loose climbing because all they do is they dig. So one thing we found was we live in PA, and if anybody's familiar with Pennsylvania, there's a couple things that we have to deal with here when we're riding trails. Number one, at least closer to the eastern side of PA, at least the eastern side of PA is, we deal with a lot of shale, a lot of coal, and a lot of rocks. A lot of the shale and a lot of the rocks have a tendency to be rather sharp. So if we are attempting to, say, you know, climb a hill, let's just say it's like 50, 60 feet, and, you know, it's got loose rocks, loose pieces of, you know, shale and whatnot. The Maxxis Zillas, when you go ahead and start your momentum for your climb, over time, they end up digging. They just dig in. If you have four-wheel drive engaged, even two-wheel drive, it just sinks. And it just sits and digs and digs and digs. And there you are, you're stuck. On trails, the Maxxis Zillas handled okay, but they have a tendency to float because of the high lugs. So the other problem that we had with the Zillas is sidewall gashes. Tom, on one ride, took a sidewall gash in each of his front tires on the outsides. It was the worst day ever. I myself took a sidewall gash on one of my front tires. I think it was my right one. And I ended up having to use a sidewall slug on that tire. So, unfortunate, but they're really exposed on the outsides of the tires. I hate to admit it. So then I ended up selling that ATV, and I got my 800XC, and the 800XC came with the stock tires that CF Moto was providing. Those tires have performed great. They've performed great. Then I ended up getting my ZForce, and the ZForce comes with stag tires, as does the Gen 3 800 Touring. And I hear a lot of people telling me that the stag tires are great, they're awesome. But one thing I'm finding here in PA, the stag tires are not that great, at least for our terrain. I know Tom, one ride we were riding, and I had another brand tire on my side-by-side, which I'm coming to that. He was running the stock stags. He took a nasty inside gash on his right rear tire. Luckily, we were close to the parking lot, so we were able to plug it, you know, jack it up with some air and boogie down the road and get to the parking lot. He ended up replacing those tires with something else. I'm not sure what they are. But this leads me into the brand that so far has not disappointed us and has not let us down. And that's Ronx. Ronx, look them up. I'll have links in the description. This company reached out to our group probably about a year ago, and we get reached out to all the time for collaboration from multiple companies. Kemimoto, we've done some collaborations with Kemimoto. Matter of fact, we're probably going to have another one coming up for an overhead fan for the ZForce, so we're going to be testing and reviewing. We've reviewed heated gloves. I've done rear windshield, you know, all kinds of products. But we also get inquiries to collaborate with companies for stuff that doesn't necessarily fit our model, which is the off-roading. And we have to tell them no, unfortunately. But we welcome any type of collaboration as long as it pertains to, you know, the off-roading, anything for the units, the ATVs, the side-by-sides, riding gear, camera stuff, camping gear, because we are going to be doing some camping and riding trips. So, you know, we welcome that as well. But back to my point, Ronx reached out to us and offered to send us a new tire that they were releasing, or they just released, because they wanted to try to get some broader traction with a lot of different users. And at the time, the tire was called something different. Ronx went back and renamed their whole product line, and it's now called the Peak Crawler. The Peak Crawler kind of looks like a road tire / off-road tire. And when we got them, I was excited because I was going from 27s on my ZForce. I think that's the stock. 27s is the stock size, the stag tires. These are 30s. So I was super excited. I reached out to RNG and I'm like, dude, I need a clutch kit. I'm going up to 30s. He shot me one over. We did the clutch kit and we put these peak crawlers on the ZForce. Mike and I, Mike with MFR, went to AOAA, which is a local riding place in our area in Pennsylvania. And we spent the day filming and trying to hit trails that would give some good testing. It rained that day, so that was good testing. How do they handle in the mud? How do they handle on rocks? How do they handle anything? And I gotta tell you something, even Mike was shocked. The peak crawlers, the set that we were first given to test, blew it out of the park. It never, I was climbing inclining hills, if that's even a word, that were wet rocks in two-wheel drive, and I was crawling them, I wasn't flying, and I wanted to see if I could get the tires to break loose or if they would slip and I'd get stuck. They hooked, they grabbed, awesome. They did phenomenal. At the end of the ride, as a matter of fact, one of the riders in our group ride, they were running Ronx Teravance. We ran the same terrain because they were the leader, we were following them. They ended up taking a nasty sidewall gash on the Ronx Teravance, and luckily they had a spare, so they changed that out. But the peak crawlers from Ronx that day performed awesome. Absolutely awesome. As a matter of fact, the Beaten Trail also did testing for Ronx for the peak crawlers. And I've watched that video, and I actually talked to Mike with the Beaten Trail. And, you know, on the phone, we talk regularly. And I was able to get his feedback, and their testing went very well also. So the peak crawler was a hit minus one issue that I went back to Ronx and they've addressed. Now that tells you, number one, this company listened to feedback, which was great. So I went back to Ronx, and when we first got the tires for the peak crawlers, I noticed that the center lugs that run down the middle were higher than the rest of the lugs on the tire. And I said to the representative, I said, hey, these kind of look really high centered, and I'm really concerned that if we get up to some trail speed, these things are probably going to be unsafe. They're going to float because you're only running on that top center. The representative got back to me and said, Sal, we actually designed that tire on purpose to look like that, to actually the mold to be like that. And it's to give center grip. Because when you go to a wider tire, let's face it, you're running on that flat. I mean, where is all your grip besides what's under, you know, on the edges, whatnot? Having that center raise gives you that little bit of digging action to help you get traction. So I understood it, and it probably is what helped me when we did the testing and the results that we were getting. So later on, I was driving with these same tires, regular trail ride, we weren't testing, and I hit a trail that was almost like an old rail bed, and I got up to about 40 miles an hour, and I could feel that the steering wheel was a little squirrely, almost like I was floating on air, and I could feel the side-by-side kind of trying to catch traction, and I was in two-wheel drive. So when I got home, I emailed Ronx, our representative, or the representative, and I said to him, I said, listen, told him what happened. I said, I really think you should probably bring that center tread down a little bit. Well, sure enough, later on, a few months, you know, went by. We did talk since then, and he informed me that they're going back to a new mold and they're going to bring that center tread down a little bit. So I think MFR, who rides in our group, he received a new set of the lower reduced centers. He tried to test them on his CForce, but unfortunately, with being 30s, they were, even with a 2-inch lift kit, the fronts were rubbing. So at some point, I would like to test those tires on my ZForce, but right now I'm actually running Ronx's Claw Treks. The Claw Treks, I'm telling you, are diggers. They're grippers. They even break loose when I want them to, but they don't break loose long because they hook, which is awesome. The Claw Treks, and you can see them here, kind of resemble the Maxxis Carnivores. And I'm telling you right now, for the price of all the Ronx brands, when you look at these versus, say, the Tusk Terabytes or the, and I'm only throwing brands out there because these are like the most popular side-by-side brands out there. You know, you see a lot of people running the Tusk tires, you see a lot of people running the Maxxis tires. I can't remember the other brand, but those are the two tires that we see a lot out in the field and out on the trails. And looking at the Ronx claw tracks, they're very aggressive. It's a very aggressive tread. Lugs are probably about that big, about an inch, a little over an inch and a half, almost an inch and a half, maybe just under. And I gotta tell you, I rode with them 2 rides within the last month and a half, and those things just hook. I am not disappointed with them at all. Another tire that we have tested, and I ran on my side-by-side, Mike ran it on his CForce 800, is the Ronx Teravance. I ran that tire out while we were out in the PA Allegheny. When we were out at the Allegheny National Forest, which is in western Pennsylvania, almost out by Erie, I was running the Tusk Teravance on the ZForce, and Mike was running the Tusk Teravance on his CForce 800. Oh my God, I'm tongue-tied. And we had no issues. Now, mind you, the trails were mostly smooth. It was dry. We were actually in a drought at the time, so, but they ran great. They ran great. We had no issues. We have ran these tires locally, running a lot of the shale and a lot of the coal and the rocks that we ride at AOAA and at famous Reading Outdoors in Pottsville, Ashland, Locust Gap. We've climbed hills that we've climbed before with other tire brands. We have seen other riders taking damage to their tires. And I gotta tell you something. I'm being completely honest with you viewers. These tires have taken 0 damage. We've inspected them. I mean, there's times I hate to say it, and I think Mike has as well, like, we tried to damage these tires and we cannot. And I know people are gonna say, oh my God, you're so full of crap, you're saying that because they sent you tires. No, I'm not saying that because of that situation. Listen, we will test we'll test anything for any company as long as it leans towards something that we can use and something that is something that the community that follows us wants to see. A sound bar, you know, stuff like that. Obviously tires, right? A cargo box, whatever. We are not gonna be not truthful if we have issues. I'm pretty sure if you go back and look at some of the reviews I've put out, there have been reviews that I have put out where I have been brutally truthful with things and said, I wouldn't recommend, I don't really care for this. This is a problem. This is a problem. So if Ronx is going to put something out and we're experiencing flat tires and we're taking sidewall gashes, whatever, I have to be honest about that. Because it wouldn't be fair to you guys if I wasn't. And it wouldn't be fair to us, because then, you know, viewers and subscribers would flat out be calling us liars. I've had people sit and tell me, oh, it's because that company's paying you. No, it's not. We've never been paid by any company to do a collaboration yet. We've negotiated and then walked away. We've never been paid. We've either been compensated in product. Kemimoto has sent us sound bars, which I actually, because I already had a soundbar, we did the test for Kemimoto, we did the review, I did the installation, and I gave that soundbar in a contest to Facebook followers. I didn't need it, and I wasn't gonna sell it and profit from it. You can go out and look at that. I'm being truthful. Check out our Facebook page. I gave that to a follower in a random wheel spin. So we're not in this for the money. We're not in this for the products. We're in this because we enjoy doing it and we enjoy helping other riders that are interested in this. So, but I have to be completely honest. The tires so far, we've tested peak crawlers, We've tested the Teravances. We've tested 2 sets of the Claw Treks. And as a matter of fact, we helped negotiate Ronx to send another rider that we know and have ridden with, I think he's on the border of upstate New York, a set of their mud tires. His stuff is now out there. He's got a growing YouTube channel. So, you know, if we were worried about getting paid and getting products and competition, the last thing we would do is try to work with another YouTuber and get him involved with the brand. But we didn't. We didn't hesitate. We branched out and shook hands and said, yo, we'll help you as long as you do what they need. And that's an honest test. We will do that. And we did. And he got them and he loved them. These tires are doing amazing with everything we've thrown at them. Even snow. They've done great in the snow. I just put out a snow ride, one of our recent videos, and I was running the Claw Treks and Mike was running the Teravances, and I was shocked at how the Teravances were digging in the snow. They did phenomenal. So that brings me to the company. So you can gladly research Ronx. I've had conversations with the representative. Their headquarters, they're based out of California. Their manufacturing takes place in Vietnam. They have a plant in Vietnam. If you look at their website, they advertise free shipping for all US orders. That's awesome. And I think that's how they're able to keep their costs down, maybe. I don't know. But free shipping. Now, I covered all the good up through this video when it comes to Ronx and our experience. But there is one bad. And you're going to be surprised at what the bad is. It's not going to be what you think it is. The bad is, I have addressed with our representative and even the gentleman in New York who received the mud tires has said the same thing. Others on Facebook have said this many times. So the community's only complaint with these tires. Now granted, and I think this is why they did this. I think when Ronx started out, they wanted to test the water, right? They didn't want to release all these different tire models and all these various sizes. They wanted to focus on side-by-sides. I'm thinking this. I'm assuming this. They wanted to focus on ATVs. So when Ronx released their models, they released ATV tires in certain models and sizes, and then they released side-by-side models in side-by-side sizes. The problem that we're seeing and the community is kind of voicing, if you take the Peak Crawler, the Claw Trek, they only make them in 14-inch rims. I think they use other, but up to like 32 or 33 inches. So they only make them in the side-by-side sizes. Where I really wish at least the Claw Trek, they would make all the way down through the ATV tires, because they're missing out on opportunity for marketing, as I believe sales would be there. They would have the sales that would drive the support to do this. Same as the ATV tires. They make specific ATV tires, but only up to 27 inches. They don't make anything over that for like the side-by-sides. So if they made the mud tire for ATVs in say a 28, 29, 30-inch tire, I think they would get a lot of business. Same as the Claw Treks going down to the ATV tires. Because I know there's a rider that rides in our group, Tom, who now has the Gen 3 CForce 800 that runs 14-inch rims. He's running stock 26-inch tires. He saw my Claw Treks and he wants them in an ATV size. He loves them. He's like, these are a wicked tread, but they don't make them in an ATV size. So Ronx, I know you're listening. I know you're listening when I email you and we have discussions. Our viewers, our followers, they have asked, they have not complained, but hey, I would love to get that tire in an ATV tire. Hey, I would love to get that ATV tire in a side-by-side tire. So the good news is, there is good news in with this bad news. The bad news is not that bad. It doesn't revolve around the product and its ability to do what we needed to do, right? It revolves around, hey, I wish you guys made these in this and made these in that. The good news is around that. And Ronx reached out to me and informed me that they are working on making certain tire models in smaller sizes. I think it's the peak crawlers. I did push the claw treks. They might be doing them, I'm not sure. I don't want to say yes and commit and then find out no, I'm wrong. I just emailed the rep this morning. for an update, and I haven't heard back from him yet. But I think they're listening, and I think they're taking the advice, and they're gonna make them in small. So once again, we have had awesome results with the Ronx brand. We've had awesome results with their customer service. We've had awesome results with their shipping. We've had awesome results, you know, MFR, and he's a local guy. So anybody looking for any upgrades to their units, any accessories, any service, look up MFR. He's on our Facebook. You know, if you check him out, we're friends with him on Facebook. He's part of our group. We ride with him. His name's Mike. He's running a small shop out of his house, and he's located in closer around the Fleetwood area in Pennsylvania. He's done skid plates for people. He's done routine maintenance for you know, ATVs and you name it, anything. Could be a snowblower, could be anything small engine related, motorcycles. Check him out. But MFR mounts all our tires, and so far he hasn't really had any complaints with mounting the tires. They mount pretty much no different than any other tire. I highly recommend, if you guys are in the market for tires, go check Ronx out. Go check them out. Check their reviews out. They do a lot of their selling on Amazon. Back to MFR, he's actually a seller for Ronx now. He's also a seller for RNG Performance and Iron Baltic. But if you check out the reviews and you check out, you know, our video, MFR has videos out there. But go ahead, jump over, check out Ronx. We highly recommend them, not just because they're supplying us with tires to test, but because this company seems to care about their products. They are super responsive. They're just, so far they've been awesome. They've been awesome. Jump over and check out the Beaten Trail. They did a review on them. I don't really think they had a negative thing to say. I'm not telling you what to do. That's not why we're here. We're here to help you guys out, make a decision. If you're on the fence about a set of tires or a tire brand, we're a small time channel. We get it. We're not necessarily worried about blowing up. We're worried about being honest. We're worried about bringing you guys content that you enjoy, and hopefully we're now starting to do that. We're looking to do more discussions. You know, I'd like to get the group together, you know, and sit around a table at someone's house, have a drink, and just discuss either it's historic trails that we've ridden, rides that we want to do that are coming up, and, you know, just shoot the bull. We get a lot of questions about trails that we ride and locations, so we're hoping to do a big group ride also in the future at one of the local places that offers camping right there next to the trails. So anybody coming from out of town or out of state will be able to camp there, RV, tent, what have you. And it's a big location. It's got a lot to offer, and I think that would be a great place to host a meet and greet and do a big group ride, which I think what we'll do is we'll split up our team and we'll send out like myself and 2 or 3 of our riders with a group, and then the other group from our team will take out another group, and then later on through the day we'll just meet up and we'll ride a little bit together and maybe grab lunch. So anyway, thanks again. We appreciate everything you guys do for us. You know, the followers, the subscribers. Hop over to Facebook. We're on Facebook as well. And I hope to see you guys one day. I've had a lot of interest in people wanting to get together, so we're going to try to make that happen. Be safe out there. Ride often, because life is too short, guys and girls.